Thanks for joining us for AM Business. As usual, every Wednesday, it is a time for you to know what is taking place in the market. And for today's edition, you may have ever encountered stories of people who have deposited monies in the banks for a lot of the times. And have you ever also thought of what happens to bank account of dead persons whose next of kin is untraceable due to challenges with contact or death? Well, what if none of these relatives of such deceased bank customers have any idea about the existence of these accounts? How easy is it for the families to gain access to these accounts? And what if the account is also stashed with thousands of Ghana cedis, if not millions? Well, as part of moves to address all such concerns, government is advancing moves to run a program called Unclaimed Asset Scheme. Well, my colleague Sheila Tamaklo with the business team has been finding out how this is going to work out.
The Unclaimed Asset Scheme, to be launched soon, is a program for managing funds that are presumed to be abandoned and remain unclaimed by their owners. The unclaimed funds include balances on lost or dormant accounts with banks and other deposit-taking institutions, dividends, insurance premium, pension entitlements, among others. Under the scheme, government is to take over all such dormant accounts for the monies to be transferred into an independent fund and managed effectively till their rightful owners are identified. The Finance Minister Sektepe revealed on Monday during the mid-year budget review and supplementary budget presentation in Parliament that plans are far advanced to soon launch the scheme.
As practiced in many advanced and middle-income countries, the Unclaimed Assets Law will establish an authority which will proactively take measures to manage these assets and also proactively locate beneficiaries or their next of kin for these funds instead of leaving them with the banking and other financial institutions. In May 2016, Cabinet approved a concept note and action plan for the establishment of the scheme. A task force was constituted and has consulted several stakeholders, resulting in a draft Unclaimed Assets Bill. Currently, the bill is with the Attorney General's Department for final drafting. In due course, it will be submitted to Cabinet and subsequently laid before this House for consideration.
But what do some bank customers make of this move? Here's what I gathered on the streets of Accra.
So we heard the Minister of Finance Sektepe present the supplementary budget on Monday, where they seek for an extra 1.8 billion Ghana cedi to continue with the projects. Well, the ministers have spoken, parliamentary members have spoken, the experts have given their opinions. But today we are out here to listen to the Ghanaian citizens, what they make of this budget and the issues that were tackled in there.
It allows people to pass on their assets, whatever they've toiled for their life, to their next of kin, to their generation to benefit from. So I think it will be a nice thing if such a law will come into existence.
Someone has passed away and the next of kin is nowhere to be found. They have to hold on to the money till, because if the family members, anyone gets up and say that I'm the next of kin and they hand over the money to the person, what happens? It's going to create another issue or problem. So I think it's in the right direction for that one.
I think the money will definitely find a good purpose, like to be used for if it gets to maybe the next of kin. Because probably even these people who have saved these money, their relatives or close people need money for other stuff that will help them out. So I think it's positive.
If it is going to be very transparent and very accountable, the accountability will be very open. Because sometimes when you want to direct money into certain funds, it ends up the corruption in such sectors cripple the funds. We know of a lot of funds that have been put up to help these social problems, but social interventions, but they've ended up crippling because of the misallocation of funds. So it's a good move though, but if it will be enforced properly, then it's a good move.
So those were some interesting views from the Ghanaian citizens. Reporting for Joy News, Sheila Tamaklo.
As we speak, the Ghana Association of Bankers is said to be collating the views of the various banks on the issue. This is towards making inputs into the initiative as government prepares to engage the various stakeholders on the initiative in the weeks ahead before implementation.
We have to correct that the law really has been passed, and I've been joined by Nana Champong, a banking consultant. He's the head of Osei Tutu Center for Executive Education and Research, and we're here to discuss this very initiative, whether it is a welcoming move and whether it's the right solution to some of the concerns that people have about dormant accounts. Thanks for joining me this morning, Nana. Okay, great. But the finance minister was saying is that very announcement that, as far as we're concerned, that is some of the best practices in the more advanced or developed economies. Yeah. Is that so?
Yeah, it is. You see, because at the moment, the problem we have until the law was passed on the 15th of July, as far as the banking sector is concerned, the various banks had different definitions for dormant account. Some will consider any account which hasn't seen an activity for 12 months as dormant. Others will say 2 years, others will say 3 years. So what the law has sought to do is to standardize the definition of a dormant account. And once an account hasn't seen any activity for 24 months, as 2 years, it qualifies as a dormant account. So Section 143 of the new Banks and Other Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Bill, which was passed on the 15th of July, seeks to define that after 24 months, they should be transferred to this Register of Dormant Accounts, RDA. Now, when it's in there for another 1 year or 3 years, the bank is supposed to cause the publication of the full details of the account holder in 2 national newspapers, or what's it called, 2 papers of national circulation, and then hopefully the beneficiary will come and claim. If they don't, then after 3 years, it's transferred to an account at Bank of Ghana, and it is left there until indefinitely. But at any point in time between the 2 years and until whenever, if the account holder wakes up and says, I had an account with ABC Bank, they can, if it's been transferred from that bank to BOG, Bank of Ghana, then they can apply, show cause, give details to enable them identify that, yes, you are indeed the account holder, and the funds will be released to you. But until now, the banks have had access to using these funds for various reasons, and then the government says, let us put it in the national coffers, because national accounts, it can always be replenished. So even if the person claims it's in there, it can be used for other national purposes. I think it's a good idea. By
your experience, prior to now, what were the banks using some of these collected sums for?
They were using it internally for their purposes, but it was more or less like an escrow account, in that they know that it is customers' money, and at any point in time, the customers can come and claim. So they couldn't use it for certain practices, but they were there. But the risk that we faced in the past has been the fraudulent use or access to these funds. If somebody knows that an account holder, for instance, has died, and they died intestate, that is without making a will, nobody has come forward, the risk is that they may access that fund knowing very well that the person is not going to wake up anytime soon. So I think it's a good practice that it is going into a state account for use.
Well, very interesting as it is, but looking at the current state of the banking sector, the concerns being raised about not enough liquidity circulating, etc., and the state of bad loans that the banks annually have been encountered with, isn't that going to affect some level of capitalization for their day-to-day activity?
No, not necessarily, because as I said, once the account qualifies as a dormant account, then you don't have to touch it. So now if it's going to the state, yes, it will be a little hole in the bank's account. But even when it was there, they were not able to use it anyway. So now, if it moved from their account to a central account, it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Yes.
I have some friends who live in the UK, and one particular person told me in the past, I think a few months ago, that he was contacted when her husband died. Contacted, the husband had come to relocate to Ghana from the UK. Was contacted by his bank in the UK.
The UK, yes.
And they gave her whatever it was, access to that very account.
Exactly. That is because when you open the account, he put on the account that the next of kin was the wife, so they had their details. But the culture we have in Ghana is that
actually the next of kin was not the wife, but on the form which he was asked, was he married? Yes. And the wife's name and everything.
That's right. Exactly. So therefore they automatically they felt that once he's there, then is the wife. I mean, the next of kin or whoever the legal representative was should have come forward. But if they haven't come forward, then it defaults to the wife, and that's what happened. But what I was saying was, in Ghana, the culture is a little bit different.
You mean the banker's culture?
No, the customer's culture. The customer's culture is such that if a man has an account, the chances are the wife will not know about that account, and vice versa.
It's an African.
So, okay, and therefore people die, and the banks don't know anything about who to contact to come and access the funds at all, and that is the difficulty. Even if they put details of next of kin, because of constant movement, the address that was given may now not apply. So how do they contact the next of kin to inform them that there's a balance in your person's account to come and claim? So those are some of the difficulties. Well,
that's very surprising. Now, particularly, what happened to good customer relations then?
Well, no, the banks are,
because now we know the banks now are espousing this very traits as far as in the chain management of customers.
Yeah, we have this thing we call KYC, know your customer, and it's supposed to be updated regularly so that everybody will update their data on a regular basis. But how many people bother, even if the bank contact them, to update their details? So I think that this is where sometimes we lose trace of who the account holder is, because the address they gave no longer applies. The telephone number they gave is no longer working. So how do you contact the customer? So this publication that even the law is asking to be put in 2 national newspapers, it may not go far enough, because when you publish, say, if the person is dead, for instance, how do they get to know that an account is being transferred to Bank of Ghana? But to some extent, it will help, because some relatives may read it, and then if they are the legal representative, make a move to the central bank and claim access to the funds.
Is it better now because we have a lot more customer bank interaction in between, and so it is possible that if somebody dies and people or his relatives are oblivious of the existence of a bank account in a particular bank, the bank is more likely to contact the very customer, his relation, etc., than before?
Yeah, I mean, the know your customer regime is now more active than previously.
KYC?
Yes, the KYC. And therefore, once it's more active, then we presume that there will be more up-to-date information about the customer. So if the unforeseen happens, the bank should be able to trace where the customer or their next of kin is, and then release the funds to them as appropriate. So yes, the present regime is better, and is also getting better by the day with the KYC rules that we have in place.
If a customer gets deceased, what happens then if the next of kin also is not available? But let's say after several months or several years, a deceased relative gets to know that there's the existence of a bank account in which there's a large amount of money.
Exactly. That is what the law allows them after 3 years it's transferred to an account at the central bank. Now that account you can access indefinitely, that anytime you wake up, like the relative has woken up, then they can apply to the Bank of Ghana, show cause why they feel that they have an interest in that account, and if it's proved beyond reasonable doubt, then they will have access to the fund. So it is good.
Well, this is very positive then. But before the war was happening?
Before then, it was held at the bank for forever. And
it could be anybody's guess.
Yes.
But it means that the banks were making a lot of money.
Yes, the amounts involved literally thousands of
because if you have a rich cocoa farmer who dies, has several bank accounts, and one of the bank accounts is in oblivion.
Yes.
It belongs to the bank?
Exactly. And also with some of the state banks where people's salaries were by force paid into those banks. When
especially if the person was a government worker and the person dies, the salary can be coming for a year.
Exactly. And then
who takes those monies?
Oh, it's sitting in the account of the bank.
It is not any worker in the bank who use it to trade?
Unless they do it fraudulently. But if they don't do it fraudulently, then it is in the safe custody of the bank. Yes.
When you do your reconciliation, by your experience in the bank, what do you do with those monies at the end of the month or quarter or the half year?
They go into a suspense account.
Suspense account.
That's right. And until the person comes to claim.
I see your smiles are very mischievous. I know. But how can banks get to relate a lot more to customers so that just in case the uneventful happens, we could reach, if their next of kin are not available, some relative within the family?
Yeah, it will be a proactive involvement of the KYC rules. And as the anti-money laundering regime requires, it's not to be done like once in a blue moon. It should be done regularly. So know your customer at least like once or twice a year, so that because we do tend to move a lot, and so if you are proactively getting to know your customer, getting them to update their data with you, then it will help that in the event of the customer passing on or something happening, then you have their present details or their current details rather than using the old stuff, which will not help you to trace them.
In the past, why is it that we haven't quantified how much money is lost as a result of this annually?
Well, it's not lost. The money is not lost. The money is there.
It's lost to the depositors.
To the depositors. Well, it's held in trust for the depositors.
Never in trust, because you can't trace the next of kin or whoever is entitled to that very money.
Well, you give an example where you said, the amount is there, then by chance a relative sees that, there's thousands of CDs stashed in this bank account, they'll go and claim it. So it's never lost. The money, unless fraud, siphons the money, and even if it does, the bank is responsible. They will have to pay. They are liable for that. So to me, the money is always safe, but who comes to claim it is the issue. And so the more know your customer details updated that we have, the better it will be for both the customer and the bank itself. So the banks are interested. They're not interested in somebody's money. If that is your hard-earned money, you work for it, you've put it there, they are only taking care of it for you. And therefore, they will expect you to get access to that fund. If you are there, they expect your relatives, whoever is your legal representative, to have access to that fund and use it for the purpose that is earmarked. So I don't think it's in the interest of the banks to see that people die and then their monies are taken by them. No, they don't take them. They keep them or they hold them in trust for them.
I love that, they hold them in trust. I think this is the third time you're mentioning this very phrase. Yes. But how then do we, if we've had some of these phenomena, how has this impacted negatively or positively to encourage people to save or not?
Well, the difficulty is empirically, how do we observe the behavior of somebody who has died, so I think it should be positive in that people are now certain that if they save and the unforeseen happens, at least the money will be put to some use, if not by their relative, by the state. But at some point, their relatives can always have access once they get to know about it. And I think we should also encourage both men and women that when you're in a relationship, be a little bit transparent. Let your partner know, where your assets are, so that in case of the unforeseen, they'll be able to access and use it for the purpose that you earmarked.
In Africa, we only get to do it after 50, not before. Because that time we see that we have nothing to lose. Anyway, I see that you're a banking consultant with Osei Tutu Center for Education and Research.
Yes.
What do you do exactly?
Well, we train bankers. It's a banking training institution. So
you kind of have compliments.
Yes, that's right. What the banks do.
Are you very much now satisfied with the relationship between customers and banking officials, so to speak?
It is improving.
It's far better than before.
Far better than before. Yes, and now because banks are supposed to be customer centric, because at the end of the day, the main asset of any bank is the customer. Because if you open the most luxurious bank branch and nobody steps in there, how are you going to survive? So banks now know that the customer is king, and customer is their main asset. Especially after the banking crisis of 2007, banking has moved from transactional to relationship, and now banks are developing a relationship with their customers, so they get to know their customers in as much detail as possible, so that if anything happens, they are able to help them. So banking is improving.
I guess those Basel conventions have helped also consolidate whatever it is that we have. All right, thank you very much. And we've had in the studio Nana Otue Champong. He is with the Osei Tutu Center for Education, Executive Education and Research. They help in providing consultancy services for financial institutions especially. We would have loved to tag base with financial institutions, especially those in the microfinance category, but we'll do that some other time. Thanks for passing through the studio as well. It's been AM Business this morning as well. Please know that for this very segment, we will always upload it on our YouTube channel because we have a channel there called My Joy Online. And so when you log on to YouTube, you get to find a lot of these videos. Please watch them. Let's have a lot more of your messages, and on WhatsApp we have the number 0568 800,000, and also you can do same on our page on Facebook, Joy News on TV.